I'm very pleased to welcome Daisy Richardson from B2-Space. I shall get that right one day, otherwise Dave will kill me. We're very pleased to welcome Daisy Richardson online to give a talk on her journey into space. Daisy, can you hear us? And can you?
Yeah, I can hear you just
Excellent.
fine. Can you guys hear me?
Okay. Would you like to proceed?
Yeah, sure thing. Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me. I just want to preface this by saying I really hope that this is useful to anyone of any kind of experience, because usually this is something that I aim at younger people. But I know there's a load of people here with all sorts of different experiences. So hopefully this can just be something, one, nice to listen to, but also two, interesting to people who are aspiring to be in the space industry, no matter how much experience they've got. So to start off with a little bit about me and how I got into the space industry. So I never actually wanted to be in the space industry when I was younger. I actually wanted to be a vet. And I think the biggest thing that anyone ever did to me was tell me I was good enough to go into the space industry. I think a lot of children have a problem with self-confidence and being told that they're not, they need to work harder, they need to do more. And I was really interested in astronomy, just as like a little side interest. And I was fortunate that my secondary school allowed me to do a GCSE in astronomy. And I took it just for fun, and I really enjoyed it. And someone was like, "Oh, you could go into that kind of field," and I thought, no way, me. And then I thought, you know what, I might as well give it a go. If it fails, I've got a backup plan, and I know what else I enjoy. So I looked at going to a different sixth form. I absolutely hated my secondary school. I think there's a massive thing, again, with children, is finding out where they feel comfortable studying. If they are not happy with studying where they are not going to do well. And I fortunately did very well still, but I know I would have done better had I moved. So I'm really glad that I ended up moving to Aldersley Woodlands School, which is in Derby. And I was the only person that went from my secondary school. And one of the main reasons I moved there was because of this little competition called CANSAT. I had no idea what it was. And I moved, I completely forgot about it in all the moving, because obviously as a 16-year-old, it's quite scary going somewhere on your own with a load of other teenagers. After you've just finished some of the hardest things you've ever done, GCSEs when you're that age seems like a massive deal. And I was quite lonely because I knew no one. And so I heard that CANSAT was going on one lunch, and I thought, I'm going to just go along, see if I can make some friends. And I did, and I was the only girl that turned up. And I kind of just kept going. And then all of a sudden, we had a competition in like a month, and we were like, oh no, we need to actually start having a go and start getting involved and building some things rather than just planning. So I focused on the parachute. So you can see on the bottom right-hand picture there, that is the CANSAT that we ended up competing with in the York competition in 2018. So that's our CANSAT at the very, very bottom there. And I did the parachute. At the time, that was literally the only skill I had was I could sew and do a bit of maths. And so that's what I used. I didn't know anything else about design or anything like that. I couldn't code. I literally had nothing else. And so I just kind of played to my strengths, which is what a real engineer would do, which I now know. But at the time, I did not know that. And I would also like to say that now I've been in the space industry, CANSAT is exactly like doing a project in industry, which is amazing because I absolutely love this project. So you can see me again in the top right picture, holding the parachute. And then we competed and worked really hard at the York competition, and we actually won the UK 2018 competition. And then we got to go to the Azores, which was the most amazing experience ever. I did not sleep at all unless we were on a bus. I was extremely tired. So again, a really great representation of what it's like to work in the space industry when you're at a launch. And yeah, we got to meet some amazing people. So if any of you guys can get involved with CANSAT or even just support a team, it's so important to young people to be able to do things like this, because I definitely would not be where I am now without CANSAT. So projects like that even smaller ones, because CAMSAT is now quite big, are so important. So opportunities, they do lead places. So again, you can see me there, one of only 2 girls in those 3 teams. There's 3 of us there, the Netherlands team, us, the British team. I think, actually, no, there was an Irish team, so we were just the English team. I don't think there was a Scottish team. And then the bottom were a guest team, that was Japan. They just came for the fun, which I thought was amazing. And my favourite memory, which I will never forget, is that on the night after all of the launches of the CAMSATs, every single team got in the pool back at the place that we were all staying, and we had this like international pool party, and I will never experience that again, and I know I won't. So yeah, that was really good fun, and the amount of amazing people I got to meet was brilliant. And because we won the UK competition, we unfortunately didn't win the European, but because of that, so many opportunities came up for me. And because you can see that I'm the only girl there, again, I think that's part of the reason that a lot of opportunities have fallen to me. And I still get them now. Like last week, I got contacted about CAMSAT, and it's years on now. So it really does open up opportunities for people, little projects like this. So after this was in the summer after I'd just done my A-levels. So I missed my prom. And then was going to go to uni. So I always knew I wanted to study physics at uni because I absolutely loved physics. And I studied physics with astrophysics to keep up my interest. And whilst I was doing that, I knew that was what I wanted to do. Like I always said that I want to make sure I can use my physics, and I want to go into research, and I never want to stop learning because I really, really enjoyed learning. But I got invited back for a lot of CAMSAT opportunities. So I got to go to the 2019 Space Conference in Wales. I got to do a lot of talks, a bit like this one. And I just really liked being able to talk with the people like you guys. I love talking to like-minded people and people who are actually interested in the space industry. It's one of the coolest industries to work in. So I really missed that, I think, while I was at uni. So I eventually, there I am at the 2019 Space Conference. So the proof is there. There I am with my Woodland shirt on. And so, yeah, I graduated from Leeds, and I decided that I was going to go and do a master's. So I had a place to go and do a master's at UCL in space science and engineering. I worked so hard for that, and I remember I was so nervous. I remember the night before I'd be told if I was accepted, I was sat refreshing my page, like, please let me get in. And I sat and I got in, and I was really excited. And in the summer, just before I was going to go, I thought, well, I think I want to go into the space industry, although I want to do this master's. Like, I've really enjoyed the space conference. I really miss talking to these people. And I think eventually, even if I do go into research, it will be with the space industry. So I heard about a thing called SPIN, the SPIN scheme. So I decided to apply for a SPIN-turnship, which they are all just little internships run by, they're funded by the UK Space Agency, but they're run and hosted, I believe, by Catapult. And I'd heard of them, and I applied for a couple, I think. And I was lucky enough to get a place with B2-Space. And I did my project on engineering origami, which is a little bit like different to what I was expecting. I never thought I would end up doing something like that. I also could not code still. I really struggled with coding at uni. I did all right in it, but it was just something I never really enjoyed. And I think it was because it was taught badly, because I did not see a point to why should I learn this? None of these projects are interesting to me. I don't need it to pass an exam. So to me, I just could not get behind it. And then all of a sudden, I joined B2-Space, and they were like, have you ever coded before? And I said, no. And they were like, here, just try. And I learned it in like 3 months, and I got to create these amazing origami designs. So you can see at the top there, these designs, I used this origami pattern to design a habitable space module. The idea is that it would fit onto the International Space Station. As you can see that when it's folded up, you save a lot of space. So there's a lot of advantages to engineering origami, and in space and in other industries as well. So I spent 3 months doing that. But after the first week, I said to my manager, Valentin, I said, please can I just stay after this, because I'm really enjoying it. And what I enjoyed was the feeling was exactly like the team feeling I had from doing CANSAT. So again, just to push it, that it really was exactly like doing engineering, and I'd never done it. I think part of the problem is there's no engineering subject at school. You have maths and you have physics, but there's nothing really in between, and especially not in my schools. There was never anything like that. So the only experience I had was CANSAT, and I'd never had anything else. And unless you go and choose to do engineering at uni, I don't think you get that experience pre-18, which I think is part of the problem, really. I think if a lot more people got to experience it before then, they would definitely go into it. But it's a difficult one to put into a school curriculum. So yeah, I really enjoyed that, and they just kind of said, "What do you want to do?" And I said, "I really like rockets. Can I work on rockets?" And they said, yes. So I'm here now. I have not gone and done my master's degree because I'm just having too much fun, and I'm still learning. So one of the things I mentioned earlier was that I wanted to go and do a PhD and wanted to carry on staying in research because I just don't want to stop learning. But I don't feel like I am doing. And I think that's a real advantage of me being in a very small startup company like B2-Space, which I will tell you guys about now because I realised I've been waffling on about B2 and not actually told you what we do. So what we do, I'm sure you might have heard from Dave before, if any of you guys have spoken to Dave yet. But the idea behind B2-Space is to launch rockets from high altitude balloons. When you put the name rocket and balloon together, you get Rockoon. So the point is, it's much, much cheaper than flying with just a rocket because you miss that really dense part of the atmosphere. And it's a lot more accessible to smaller satellite companies. Like a lot of you guys that are here today, I'm assuming you guys are from some satellite companies that launch smaller satellites. So it's really great for starter companies and just companies that want to launch smaller things without having to take up a giant rocket. And a lot of the people don't realise, but it's actually a little bit safer because you're not launching a giant explosive rocket on the ground. You're launching it from much higher up. So that is what I'm working on today. I get to work on a few different things. So I'm mainly based on analysis. My main role was designing a trajectory analysis code that basically takes in live weather data and plots a Rockoon trajectory or a rocket or a balloon trajectory. So all three. And just note there that is purely coding, and I had no coding experience before B2-Space. So I'm very, very fortunate that I got to learn such good coding skills from B2. And I think, again, part of the reason I've learned it so well is because they just threw me in and said, you need to learn this. And so I did. It was because I had a purpose to learn it. So I've enjoyed it, and I really like learning it, and I like using it every day. So that's my main job, I would say, at B2. But I've also got to do a lot of other smaller projects. So I've got to do some thermal analysis on some satellites that we've been sending up. And I also got to do a flight safety analysis, which was really good fun. That really opened my eyes to what industry is actually like and taught me a lot more about the business side of things and just things I would not learn from trajectory analysis. It's not just physics. There's a lot more to consider. And then I also got to design and build a rocket. Just thought I'd add that one in at the end there, the coolest one. So for the most recent launch, I got to design and build the rocket that would be launched from that Rockoon there. So here's just some snippets from the flight safety analysis work I got to do. And this is just some information for maybe some... Usually I give this information to students, which is why it's in there, but I'm hoping you guys find it interesting too. So there's just some limits there that we use in flight safety analysis for uninvolved public, the risk, ship hazard areas, and aircraft hazard areas, which I found really interesting. I think when you're just a customer or you're thinking about it from the commercial side, it's like, oh, I would always just assume that would be zero, but they are not zero. Expected casualties are never zero. So at the top there, that uses my flight trajectory code at the top to generate those trajectories to show to people, you know, this is our work and this is what we can show and provide to you, whether you want to launch from here or somewhere else. And at the bottom, that is part of my flight safety analysis that I got to do. So you can see a flight corridor there with the expected casualties, and that's using population data. It's really accessible from NASA. which is really cool that that's really accessible. And then here's some thermal analysis I got to do. There's just a little screenshot here. Unfortunately, I didn't finish this too long ago, so I've not got loads of thermal analysis behind me. This was definitely the most challenging part that I've had to do so far. Absolutely nothing like anything I've ever done, and there's a lot to consider with thermal analysis. So I have a lot of praise for people who do purely thermal analysis for their job. I definitely found this the hardest, and I needed the most support with this. Also because I had to use a software that I'd never used before as well. So that really added to the challenges. And again, here's some more trajectory analysis. So this is the main thing that I get to work on. So I know it's a bit small on here. I really tried to zoom in for you guys, but I know that there's a lot of different things on here, and it's probably quite difficult for you guys who are sat in front of a big screen. But there are lots of different areas on there. So this is just an example of a trajectory I did pre-last launch, which was in the Canaries. So we had a NOTAM, which is in orange. I hope you guys can see that on the left. And it also plots the sea drift, which is all to do with the current. So if we're going to wait and go and collect well, anything, it could be the balloon or the rocket later on after we've had a cup of tea and celebrated, then we can go and find where that is using the trajectory, using predicted sea drift data. We've also got a radius of rocket trajectory in case that it doesn't go in the direction we hoped. There's a balloon plotted in red, and the test bench, which it should probably be gondola on here, but it's just anything that holds the rocket and anything else that's on the balloon as well. So there's quite a bit on there. On here as well, there's also a restricted area because the Spanish Navy said that we had to stay in a specific area. So it just goes to show really the different things that we can do with our trajectory analysis. And here's the bit you all wanted to see, the rocket. So this is the rocket I got to help build and design. And I actually made this part all by myself. I'm quite proud of that. I'd never had any experience with any sort of electrical tools or anything like that. And they just said, why don't you just have a go? And so I did, which is how I've learned to do everything else in this small startup company. And I feel really privileged that that's the way I'm learning currently. I know that that is definitely not how most people will learn and how most people's experience of going into industry is, which is why I really push to students to go and consider working in a small startup company. I've got a lot of the range on what I can ask to be able to do. So if I said one morning to my mentor, I don't think that's what I want to do today. I think today I'm really struggling. I could do with something a little bit lighter weight. Is there anything else I can do whilst I'm waiting for this simulation to run? Or, could I also, I'm quite interested in this. Can I join in on that meeting? A lot of the time the answer is yes, which is really fortunate. I know that I would not have got the experience I got even if I did my master's and then went and did work in a bigger company. So there's a lot of learning opportunities, and I'm still getting to learn what I wanted to learn when, way back when I was like, oh no, I want to keep on learning. I'm still getting that, and I never get bored of it, which is another great thing because I'm one of those people, I have to be busy all the time. I really struggle with being bored. So it's a really nice way to have started out my career in the space industry. And this is, it is a video. So here you guys get some footage from our latest balloon launch. So this is the one I was telling you about. This is the one from the Canary Islands. Here you can see our giant latex balloon. And if you zoom in really carefully, you won't be able to spot me because I'm definitely the smallest on the ship. But there's some footage here of some launches, not just the last launch that we did. This is one of our Blue Jay launches from last year. We've had another Blue Jay launch this year. And the Blue Jay program is essentially a way of us launching universities projects. So we run the Blue Jay program, and we give a series of lectures to some university students, and they get to create their own project, and we launch it for them, which is great for us because it gives us some flight experience, but it's also great for them because they get to benefit with all of the experience of actually taking part in a launch or in a flight. So this is one of my favourite programs that we do because I just think it's so rewarding for both us and the students. So this is a really good time lapse of that inflation there. You can see that balloon's much smaller than the one on the Spanish naval ship that I showed you previously. I think this is quite a long time lapse. I'll skip it forward a bit for you guys. You can see the sun's rising, and there you go. You might be able to spot. I don't think Dave's in this one. So yes, unfortunately, there's no footage of Dave there for you all to see. Let's try to skip it forward a bit more. There you go. That's the footage you all wanted to see. Wanted to see it going. And from some of the recent launches, we've got some amazing pictures. I'm sure if you guys follow B2-Space on LinkedIn, you'll be able to see them soon. There's some really seriously cool pictures coming up. And it's just amazing to see that something that we all worked on. That's my favourite thing about engineering, is everyone works on things that they're best at doing. No one's amazing at everything. Everyone has a go at one thing that they're brilliant at, and then that all comes together and makes this happen. It's just so rewarding. See at the end of this video. Oh, there's some nice footage for you. So here's some pretty footage for you to see. I believe this is in Spain, but please do not take my word for that, because I wasn't there. I'll skip this before you get dizzy, because it does spin. But there you go, it's starting to slow down. So yeah, the idea is taking your business to space. Cringy, but that's how they all tend to be for companies. The catchphrases. That's what I found as well. I was working in the industry. So here are some pictures again from the last launch. So I was lucky enough to go to this launch. I think Dave was happy on his holiday in America, which I'm still very, very jealous of. But there in the bottom left, you can see the rocket with everything in it, and then painted yellow and red. I promise it is still the same rocket, it's just painted. And that has everything in it, all turned on, ready to go. At the top, that's the balloon anchor that holds the balloon down while we're inflating it. You wouldn't expect, I always think of balloons that aren't heavy, because obviously every balloon that I've experienced before, you could just hold in your hand and walk around with. That balloon is extremely heavy, and it has some serious pull on it. So we have the balloon anchor there. In the bottom right, you can see one of the Spanish naval guys. That's our gondola there. You can just see at the bottom the launch tube poking out at the bottom there, with the rocket inside, and some foam insulation there to keep it nice and warm as we go up. And then at the top, that's just a nice bird's eye shot of the team. I actually don't think I'm in that one, but majority of the team are there. We were still quite small. We've expanded quite a bit since then. And yeah, so that's the end of that. I didn't realise that I only had one slide left. So I really hope you guys just enjoyed seeing some nice pictures. And if there's anybody that's looking to go into the space industry, you've got some ideas. One last piece of advice that I always try and give to people who are aspiring to be in the space industry is just take all the opportunities that are given to you. There are so many now, because the space industry is just booming. So just say yes to them all. Like, I was offered to do this presentation and I just said yes. So if you can say yes to things and you can fit as much of this in, you will get somewhere. That's always I was asked the other day, what's your golden nugget piece of advice? So I really hope that you guys enjoyed that and hopefully learned something out of it too. But thank you guys for letting me speak. And if you have any questions as well, I'm always happy to answer.
Thank you, Daisy. I think you can possibly see via the one camera of the room. I can tell you that we're all very jealous. So, are there any questions for Daisy?
I've got to say something. Just the smile on your face says it all every time.
What I get to do, so yes, the smile is very real. This is what I'm like most days. Apart from in the morning at the 9 in the morning meetings, I don't look like this. But by the time it's the afternoon and I've had a few cups of coffee, I definitely look like this.
Any other questions for Daisy? Jim?
Yeah, did you ever come across, and I can't remember their name, but it's students. There's a club society which gets students jobs when they leave university, and I can't remember. Students. UK SEDS, SEDS.
Yeah, UK SEDS, yeah.
Did you ever come across them? Well, what was your impressions of them? Did you ever
Sorry,
did you ever come across them as an
Yeah, I
organisation?
did. Yeah, I've done a couple of events. So I did. I know there's one. I think I did one event with them where I did like a panel, like a careers panel, and then while I was at uni, this is the only opportunity I got given at uni to do with space. I got to go to one of their events at Birmingham, and they had what was her name? She wrote handprints on Hubble, and she went to space, and like really bad, I can't remember her name now. But she spoke, and then there was a space journalist there that spoke. So I have come across them, and I know that they do quite a few events, just like CAMSAT and other. They help with events like that. If that was your question, it's really hard to hear. I'll try turning my volume up, but
I just wondered I just wondered if the contact you had with them was helpful in your desires to become a space engineer.
Good question. You know what? The most help I had was actually from the teacher at school who ran the CAMSAT competition. He was the most help because I would just say, please, can you put me in contact with someone from the space industry? I need some information about applying for such and such. And he generally would just contact someone in CAMSAT who would contact someone externally. But what I would say is that my university, I always found this hilarious. Leeds didn't have they had an astronomy society, which I joined, and I went to a couple of their events. But there wasn't anything like this. Like this event, I would have loved to come to this. I think this would have been a spot on for a university to come to. But I remember going to my tutor and saying, I think I want to go into the space industry. And she goes, well, we don't really know anything about that. Sorry. That was it. But because I went to the University of Leeds and they were Russell Group Uni, and they've got a lot of information, obviously, about going on to research because they're a very research-based university. And what's funny is that I was contacted about 2 weeks ago to go and do one of the careers panels for Leeds University on my job. Of course, so now I've left and got a job in the space industry. Of course, they want me back, which I'm happy to do because I'm hopeful that hopefully if there's anyone else from Leeds that wants to go into the space industry, at least I can give them some advice. But yeah, I think more and more so now, there are people I've found in the space industry are very happy to talk about their jobs because we all love it. It's a really cool job. So there's fortunately a lot of people that have been very helpful. And I know that I'm not the only person that likes trying to help and encourage people into the industry, because I think there's a very bad stigma attached with it that only really smart people go, and it's only NASA and SpaceX, and obviously we all know that it's not. But we only know that because we're already in the industry, and I kind of fell, if you like, into it by saying, oh yeah, all right, I'll go to this CAMSAT meeting, sounds all right, and I might make some friends. I was fortunate in that way, but I definitely think there's needs for more things like you said, like UK SEDS. If I'd have known that they would have offered some help while I was applying to the spin scheme, I know that I would have taken them up on that. Fortunately, I didn't. I was okay. But also, there's the website, Space Careers UK. That is brilliant. They have all sorts on there. And so if you guys are ever looking for anything careers-wise, I would always recommend Space Careers UK. And the people that set it up, I believe, were students. So it's more designed for younger, like, students who are looking for their first jobs. But, like, if you are looking for something like a PhD or a postgrad, there's still things like that on there as well.
Thanks, Daisy. Any other questions? No, in which case, can I thank you very much for being such a good ambassador for the space sector for us?
No problem. Anytime.
I tried to recall where I'd heard your name, but it was at UK Space in 2019. I was there and I heard you speak at that time. So, well done. It's great to meet you again. And thank you very much. Could everybody show their thanks again, as usual?